Can you do that again, please? Good.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's now 6:33 on this fine Wednesday evening of February 2nd. I'm happy to see that there's a lot of participation on the phone. And so why don't we get started? The first item is present to speak. So if you would like to speak, please introduce yourself and where you live and share your thoughts. You'll have to unmute yourself. Ralph?
I'm unmuted.
Oh, I was addressing anybody that wanted public to speak, but go ahead, Ralph.
Okay. In reviewing the agenda, I see that item 8B was left off the agenda. I'm hoping this was just a typo. This was an item that was discussed at our January 19th meeting and voted on by the committee to be a standing agenda item at that meeting. I think it should have been on our agenda for tonight and should remain on the agenda until we can dismiss that item.
Thank you, Ralph. Anyone else? Okay, Matt?
Yeah, I was just wanted to ask about the consultant, the population or educational consultant. I wanted to know if the committee was going to review that or discuss the findings from that presentation. Apparently, there was a school census is slated to remain steady in Willington. It's been going down for 30 or 40 years, but apparently it's stated to remain constant. And I wanted to know if that was going to be an item on the agenda. I thought that was something we could discuss or I could listen to tonight. So that was my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else? I can't see all the hands, so if somebody sees a hand, just let me know. I don't see any other hands up, so I'm going to move on to the chairperson report. It just so happens that to talk about the agenda items, I get requests for adding agenda items to our meetings, and these agenda items are going to be added and included at appropriate times and at the discretion of the chair. We have a list of items that are on the agenda from previous meetings that do get added to the agenda, but we have to also consider that everybody's time here they're volunteers, and we have to consider the amount of time that these meetings take. And I can't put every single agenda item on the agenda for our next meeting. So I rest assured your question, your agenda item, Ralph, will be on the next agenda. I did already create the draft of the agenda for our next meeting, so it is on there. The other thing I wanted to mention is that if you haven't seen it already, the 2022 meeting dates are posted on the town website. So if you haven't been there, that's where our meeting dates are. And yeah, so I just wanted to reiterate that everybody here that's on the building committee, they're volunteering their time. We don't get paid to do this. This is all for the goodness of the town and the students. And you know, I'm trying to be considerate of not having 3-hour meetings every time we meet. So if there are an abundance of agenda items, we will just meet more frequently. But I appreciate your comments. So our next item, we have a presentation here. As you know, the committee members were sent a memo, and the memo is our recommendation for our owner's project manager that the task committee has been working on quite a bit and with a lot of effort and important input. And we're here today to present to you and to recommend our owner project manager of Collier's. So the building committee members should have seen the memo and the attached information. And if you do have a question about their scope, there is an opportunity in the rest of the meeting to discuss that. We'll be discussing that under old business. But first, we wanted to invite Colliers here to just give a short, brief presentation of what they presented, portions of what they presented to us in the interviews. And so for now, I'll turn it over to Scott Pellman and Ken Guyette, who are with Colliers. And they're just going to share, introduction of the scope of what the RFP was and tell us a little bit about themselves.
All right, thank you very much, Catherine. And first and foremost, I'd just like to say, we're thrilled to be here and have the selection committee put the confidence in Colliers to, help you guys decide what the best project for Willington is moving forward. I only have 10 minutes and as I'm sure the selection committee knows, I like to talk. So, we'll try and keep this brief. And Catherine asked me just to give a little overview of what some of our first steps are, communication tools, and how we're going to initially come out of the gate and start working with you. And if I think Phil, are you controlling the meeting? If I can share my screen. Okay, hopefully, can everyone see the presentation cover?
Yeah, no.
Was that a yes, Phil?
We can't see it, but you can share.
You're not seeing it yet?
No.
I did select it. That's strange. Hold on.
You want a second monitor? Are you on a second monitor, Scott?
Yes.
That might be why. There you go.
There. I think now maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, first coming out of the gate, the first thing that we'll do, and as, noted in your RFP, is we're going to start the discovery and assessment phase. We know there were a couple of reports done in existing buildings by Fryer Architecture. So we're going to be taking a good look at those. Coming back out, I have had the chance to walk the schools in the past, but, walking the schools again with Phil, we're going to be looking to confirm a lot of the basic information. The reason for this is sooner than later, we're going to want to sit back down with the state of Connecticut. Most of you may be aware that Costa di Mentis, who you had met with previously and came before this committee, and provided some feedback and opinions on what the state would or wouldn't do for the town of Willington, is no longer with the state. So, as part of this early pre-referendum phase 1 discovery and assessment, we want to gather all the information up together, put it in a logical, clear format that we can then sit down and having a meaningful discussion with the state to find out exactly what their support might be for a particular project. Doesn't mean we have to go with state support, but I think early on we want to find out what and where they're willing to put dollars into the town of Willington and how that may work, and that'll certainly be a big factor as we drive things forward. Part of this early phase, we're going to be looking at developing communication plans, some of those communication tools, and then reaching out to the public for some feedback. So really, from a communication public engagement standpoint, one of the first things we're going to do is set up a meeting with the town. And this really is not going to be a presentation for us. It's really going to be a way to listen to, what are the town members, what are their thoughts on the schools, their issues, get their understanding of what they think are some of the problems. We're not going to come right out of the box and just start presenting to them, but I think, the best way to engage the community early on is to sit back, ask some questions, let them ask some questions and kind of listen. Part of the process with communication is developing the tools and the communication to the public. What we talked about in our interview is developing some fact sheets, frequently asked question responses. We want to make sure that, when somebody stops the committee in the grocery store or whatever, that the information going out is always consistent. We don't want people to hear different stories from different individuals. We want to make sure that the information being put out to the community is always consistent. and is been vetted by this committee, so it's approved to be put out. So we're going to be developing a talking point list. You can see some of the just examples of some of the things that we can assist and help and develop. Frequently asked question sheets. These can be left around town. These can go out into flyers. We'll work with you to develop, if you don't already have, but a specific Facebook site for the project. That's a great way to disseminate information, make sure that the public, again, is up to date, and also a good method for them if they can't make meetings necessarily to the committee, they can always post some questions to the committee that can be addressed in the public forum, either at one of your committee meetings or through Facebook. We're going to look to identify other community forums to reach out to. Maybe it's senior centers, other areas where we can engage the public, have those conversations as the project starts to develop, to educate the community about the project, whether it's civic groups, Lions clubs, what have you. And then certainly, if, and we would hope that eventually once a project is selected, a PAC was formed, and we would definitely work with the PAC, making sure, again, that they had the appropriate information that was approved by the committee, to make sure that got out to the community. Again, from a managing the process standpoint, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be developing a detailed, and this, again, just an example, but a detailed milestone schedule. This is going to have all the tasks identified, tasks that we need, decision points by the committee, approvals. Potentially, if we're looking at land, we may need an 824 referral from planning and zoning. We're going to work with the town attorneys and your local legislative leaders on what processes and what timeframes we need for getting public approvals at different steps of the way. So this milestone schedule will be reviewed at every meeting. We're going to review it with the building committee. We're going to track new items. We're going to define deliverable dates, action items of who that deliverable date, who's responsible for. And this is really our guide to staying on track. So we're going to develop this in conjunction with a macro schedule. And the macro schedule is something we'll develop with you early on, very high level, but it's going to be really, in essence, when do we think we can have a project that we can bring to the community with enough time for the community to be fully vetted, involved, understand what the projects are, and then looking to getting something under construction and then completed. So this milestone schedule that you see example in front of you will tie directly into our conceptual schedule. Let me see here, this just jumped up a little bit. So we actually, just looking at the project, had produced 3 different schedules. Again, we haven't had a chance to have a dialogue with you at all on this, but the real keys are getting a grant application into the state. I think at this point, knowing that there's quite a bit of a vetting process to do to select a project, I think looking at this June 30th, we have made it happen in the past. We could make it happen here. My gut tells me, without any input from this full committee, that that's probably trying to push a little bit too much through the town, and you're going to receive some pushback. So the one schedule that you see on the screen in front of you actually anticipates a grant application in June of 2023. You would, that would allow you to develop the project, market the project all through the summer, through the fall, into the spring of next year, and then look to get a town approval. I think it's town meeting in the case of Willington, whether it's town meeting, referendum, get the funding approved, get that off and running. So this scenario, again, real quick blush, haven't really had a chance to discuss it with you at all, but would state that we could get a project ready for occupancy by the fall of 2026. We feel this is a realistic schedule. Again, there's other permutations of this. I don't want to get into it this evening. Some of the key factors along with the funding by June 30th is we need to make sure that we then have all our paperwork done, everything ready for the state by December 15th. December 15th is a critical milestone. You can see it here. That's when the state puts the priority list together and sends that off to the legislature to start going through legislative approval. So that's a key. We've got to get our submission in by June 30th of whatever year we select, make sure we have all our paperwork. We touch base with Michelle Dixon, everyone else up at OSCGR, make sure that we're on our priority list for the 15th. And then typically following that December in July, beginning of July, would be the legislative approval for the project. And again, I just had some other options. And you know, with that, again, this is just one of the tools you see in front of you as far as pre-referendum and option development. You know, we create a number of different matrices. We use colors to sort of grade different sites, different options, whether it's a renovation with state support, renovation without, potentially a project on a new site. You know, we look at them for advantages to disadvantages, green being the best, red being the worst. You know, if there's a site that has poor sight lines, no utilities, for example, that would go down under site selection as a negative. But there's a number of tools that we can help, again, along with developing those macro and milestone schedules to help you evaluate what the proper project would be. You know, in addition, I think if I can scan back here a little, we've got, again, slides with detailed estimates. And, you know, we're going to be putting together in the beginning, high-level estimates of what we think that the costs are going to be. But then in the end, once we get down to the final 3 choices, we're going to develop total project costs of those, including soft costs, timelines on different projects. If you do a renovation, that may take longer than a new construction. You've got to factor those things in. So again, these are just some of the tools that we're going to use to help keep you organized, help you understand your options, and to bring a project forward that the town of Willington will support. Any questions?
So we're going to save the questions. If you can just hang on real tight, we're going to, just before the vote, we have a discussion, and then it'll give the committee a chance to come up with some of their questions, and they can ask the questions at that time. So, but thank you for your presentation. I just want to follow along with the agenda. We're down to item 5, approved meeting minutes from the SBC meeting January 19th. Is there a motion on the table to approve the meeting minutes from January 19th?
So moved.
Ralph, second?
Second, Erica.
Erica? Discussion?
Question, Catherine, I can't find the minutes for that. How are they distributed?
They're posted online.
Email?
They're posted on the town website.
Okay, all right, okay. I looked through emails. For some reason, I assumed they were coming in email. That's my fault.
All right, discussion.
I did the same. I did the same. They were coming through email for a little while, I feel like.
Yeah.
I thought Kelsey was sending them.
Yeah, I thought so too.
That's the typical process.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they are posted
They're
online.
posted. I know she posted them. I'll circle back to make sure that they get sent out. So typically she sends them with the agenda. They didn't come with your agenda.
Did not.
Okay,
No.
that may have been an oversight on our part.
Okay, thank you for answering that.
So is there any discussion about the minutes?
Did you want to table that for a meeting so people can have a chance to review them? Does that make sense?
I would be happy to withdraw my second if Ralph wants to withdraw his motion if the committee isn't prepared to vote on them.
Well, if there's enough people that have reviewed the minutes and we have the voting, let's see if we have enough votes that for the people who have reviewed it. If we don't, then we can table it for the next meeting.
I would recommend a roll call vote then.
Yeah, why don't we take a vote? So we're voting on the approval of the meeting minutes of January 19th. And we have a first from Ralph, second from Erica, and we'll take a roll call vote. Phil? No vote. Sorry. I'm a yes. Erica?
Yes.
Brianna?
Abstain.
Abstain. Anne? Is that a yes? You are on mute, honey.
Oh my God, Julie.
Abstain.
Abstain, okay. Gary?
I have to abstain. I haven't reviewed them.
Okay. Ralph?
Judging from what I've heard so far, I'll abstain.
Mike?
I'll abstain also because I haven't seen them yet.
Okay, I think obviously there's only a couple yeses, so I guess we'll table this for our next meeting. So no vote.
Catherine, I think for the minutes, you'll need to record the vote and then the motion fails.
Okay. All right, so why don't I continue? Justin?
I'm abstain also.
Okay. Did I miss anyone?
I think Peter.
Is he on? Oh,
Yes.
Peter, yeah. I see your face. Yes, Peter. You're on mute though.
It doesn't look like it, but.
Or maybe you just can't hear him. Just shake your head. Yes or no? Yes? No. All right.
Do a little
so
dance.
We'll count him at Peter. We'll count you as an abstain. Yeah. Okay. Abstain. All right. So it looks like we only have myself and Erica as a yes, and then everybody else is abstain. So motion fails. So this will be on the agenda for our next meeting. Next
we'll
item.
Get those out to everybody tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Erica.
You're welcome.
Next item, communications. I have no updates. Item 7, subcommittee reports. As requested from one of the committee members, we added A, B, and C to list the current subcommittees that we have. So if there is no update on the subcommittees, just say no update. If there is an update, give us the update and tell us when the next meeting is, if you do have an update. So we'll start with A, communications subcommittee.
We have not met.
No update. Thank you. Land assessment subcommittee.
I have 3 people available for Monday afternoon, it looks like. So once we are sure the 4th person available, we'll be meeting Monday.
Monday, what date?
I'm sorry, the 7th at 4 p.m.
Okay,
Works for me. Works for me, Mike.
Okay.
Finance subcommittee.
We have not met.
Okay,
no
thank
update.
you. All right, old business. We're down to the recommendation to hire owner's project manager. Again, just as I stated earlier, we did send a memo to the entire committee. This item is on here, so we take a vote. So at this point, I believe that everybody's received the memo and any other information that you need. So I'll make a motion to make a recommendation to hire owner's project manager as in Colliers. And so I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second for discussion purposes.
Okay. Okay, discussion. And this is the opportunity to ask questions based on what Scott was just referring to in his presentation. Thank you.
Kind of a parliamentary question, Catherine.
Erica?
Should the motion reflect the bid amount?
I would say yes.
Do you want me to revise my motion?
I would accept a friendly, well, if you'll accept a friendly amendment
okay.
that we award the bid to Colliers in the amount of $64,800.
So Catherine, did you accept that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So we're accepting the friendly amendment to recommend Colliers to be awarded in the amount as the owner's project manager in the amount of $64,800. Is there any other discussion? Peter?
Peter, you got to work on your sound.
Peter,
Right,
try
we'll
maybe leaving the meeting, coming back in and see if that helps.
I'll come back to you, Peter, if you do that, okay? We'll move on. Mike?
I just want to thank the subcommittee for the hard work on this. I can't comment on the process or how you rose at this answer, but I have faith in the process, and I know it was hard work and it's a very important. So I'm in support of it because the subcommittee says it's the right thing to do.
Well, and just to add, thank you, Mike, just to add to your comment, the memo was pretty detailed and described the steps that we did go through. We did have a scoring sheet. It was discussed. So if you do have any additional comments or questions, feel free to ask.
I agree with that. There is great detail there, and I have faith in that also. I'm just saying, not being a participant, I have faith in the people who participated, so.
Thank you. Ralph?
I just would like to correct the reference to the selection group. It was a task group. It was not a subcommittee.
My apologies.
Sorry. I'm not sure if I said it or Mike said it, but you're absolutely right. It was a task group because we're not going to continue to meet after this. So the task is hopefully complete. Any other discussion before we vote? Gary?
I just wanted to note, I know this was noted in the memo, but I think it's important for the public to know as well that the consultant that we've selected, it was not only identified as the most qualified, but it was also the low bidder in this case. So I think it's important to note that for the record here.
Thank you, Gary.
I think Peter's still trying to get in.
Yeah.
See him yet in the waiting room.
As soon as he pops back
Well,
in,
I can, yeah.
Excuse me. I think we should wait. We know that he had a question.
Yeah.
If he can't hear him on video, then maybe we suggest he call in.
Well, I too want to echo what Gary said, and Colliers did come to the table well prepared, making references to some very relevant past experience, which is going to serve the town of Willington very well. Came with a very qualified staff, and like Gary said, they are the low bidder, and I think they're going to be a huge asset to this committee and to this town. And regarding the process too, the memo that was sent to the committee members did detail and outline what the task group went through. We started this process at the beginning of December, really working hard to develop a very detailed RFP, which we were very successful at. And had very few questions from the OPM. So that was a good sign that they understood our RFP and responded accordingly. We had very good interviews with the candidates, and we all felt confident and feel confident here today in recommending this group. And as you heard a little while ago, they shared with us what they're going to be focused on for the first initial steps of the project. So Peter, it looks like Peter popped on again. Not sure if we can hear you.
He's still connecting.
Okay.
I think Brianna and Ann had their hands up at some point. I don't know if they're good.
And I did.
I don't know.
Brianna?
I can wait, thanks.
Okay, Peter.
Disappeared.
He's there.
Oh, no, he's not. He's there.
He's there.
I just asked him to unmute.
I did too.
Yeah.
Getting all kinds of thumbs from us.
If I might suggest, he might be able to do something in the chat and at least type his question in.
Oh, good idea.
Wait. I think
It's
that's
turned off,
disabled.
Scott.
But you can turn it on, right, Phil?
I don't know if I can mid-meeting.
Oh,
I think.
Oh, you just did.
I think so. Let's see.
No, chat's available.
Well, that's because we just turned it on now.
Okay.
yeah. Let
And I
me,
just tested it to see if everybody received my chat.
see him on here though.
His mic is on. Peter, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Peter, maybe send an email to or can you do it in the chat?
Would he use his cell phone for sound?
Yeah.
I don't know what device he's already on. He could be on a cell phone.
Yeah. Peter,
But
if you
Peter,
open
you can
the
type
chat
into the chat.
in the bottom, you should be able to ask a question and maybe we can get them answered that way.
Lost him.
We lost him.
Catherine, can we move on to the other people with their hands up in the meantime?
Yep, I did already ask if they wanted to speak, and
Oh, I think we had Ian and Ralph.
We had three. Yep,
I called on Ralph. I called on Brianna. Ann, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really appreciated the fact that Colliers helped us out as we were beginning the process. I thought that was really helpful to kind of point us in the right direction. So I did appreciate that.
And Catherine,
Thank you, Ann. Ralph,
you
go ahead.
may have called on me, but I didn't have an opportunity to add a comment to this discussion for this particular motion. And I just want to add, I think that both firms were equally qualified, and I'm reluctantly going with Colliers primarily because of the bid amount and not necessarily because of capability.
Okay, any other discussion? I think Brianna, you were gonna wait. Are you ready? I hate to call on you, but.
Well, I have like 8,000 questions, of course, but.
All right, why don't you start with the first one?
Well, I mean, these are questions that can last us until, 2026, really. But while we're waiting, I was wondering, Scott, what are some things we can do between now and a 2023 grant application besides like PR and marketing? What other kinds of things will we be doing?
Well, again, I think, the initial task, once we gather all the information, is going to be meeting with the state, but it's really going to be, the biggest thing is going to be really deciding what is the project. Is the project, and again, I'm coming to the table with no preconceived notions. The project could be, let's just renovate the two schools we have. The state may or may not, pay for anything for that. It could be trying to consolidate the two schools onto one of the sites, and we'll have to take a look at the challenges, advantages, disadvantages of that, or it may be building a new school. So, a lot of what we're going to be doing initially is gathering information, presenting that to the information to this committee, because you've been the ones tasked with determining what the best project is to bring forward to the community of Willington for them to vote on it to go forward. So it's really going to be a process of, the initial data gathering, then talking about all of the different options, working with you. We may take some of those options off the table fairly quickly, depending on what some of our discussions are early on with the state. Looking at those options, putting those options in a way, again, looking at schedule, cost. We also need to, one thing we talked about at the interview was, this isn't just a financial discussion. It's not just bricks and mortar, but it's really what is the best educational environment for the students of Willington, tomorrow and for the next 50 years. We want to make sure, we talked a lot about schools now that are flexible, looking to the 21st century, especially with declining enrollment. You're going to need to look at spaces that have multiple uses and a lot of flexibility built in. And will the existing facilities allow you to incorporate that? Those are a lot of the things. So we're not just going to be looking at a financial decision, but we've got to look at all sides of the options and make sure that not only do we end up with a facility that's physically in wonderful shape and can be maintained, but also educationally appropriate and responsive and will allow growth into, for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
I'm excited to get started.
Scott. Brianna, did you have any other questions?
Assuming this relationship will be continuing, I'm happy to hold the rest of my specific questions. Thank you.
I believe iPhone is Peter, Catherine.
Hi, Peter. Are you joining us?
Can you hear me?
Oh, great. Yes.
Great. Sorry about all the technical difficulties.
That's okay. We're still in the discussion portion of the recommendation for OPM.
Great. Sorry to be so late to the discussion. Are we discussing strategic or Collier?
No. So the recommendation on the table is for the recommendation to Collier's for the owner's project manager in the amount of $64,800, which was the low bid. So now we've got first and a second on the table. We're in discussion right now, and you're the last one. We wanted to give you the opportunity to speak before we take a vote.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. I wanted to thank the task force for all their hard work. And I was looking forward to the discussion tonight.
Okay, so are we ready to take a vote then? We can do a roll call. So my vote is yes. Erica?
Yes.
Brianna?
Aye, yes.
I was gonna ask Scott to vote, but you can't vote. Ann?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Gary?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Peter? Peter, did we lose you? Peter, did we lose you? Oh, I see you now. We're voting. Peter?
Give us a sign that you can hear us.
I think he can.
Peter,
Unless
can you
there's-
hear us?
I don't think he can.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
I'm sorry. After all that, Donna called me. And that phone call like threw me out. I apologize again. I cut her off, so I hope she's not stuck somewhere. But at any rate,
we're taking a vote, Peter. You're up next.
Nay.
All right. Did I miss anybody? Mike, Ralph, Ann, Brianna, Gary, I think we got everybody. Yeah, so motion carries. Okay, moving on to new business. Don't have anything added for new business, but if there's an item that somebody wants to add, make a request and we can vote on it to add. Otherwise, we can save it for our next meeting. Okay, item 10, present to speak. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. If you could just introduce yourself and where you live, and then we'd love to hear from you.
For the record, John Blessington, 29 Mason Road. I just wanted to comment that in over 3 decades of serving on various boards and commissions here in town, I don't recall ever having been on a board or commission where the chairperson did not enter an item onto the agenda when requested to do so by a member of that board or commission. And I've also never seen a meeting where they decided that it was that meetings would be too long if we covered those items, so we'll put them on a subsequent meeting, because what might have been said tonight might have affected what the item that you did vote on, and that will now be said next week and the point would be moved. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Arthur Christensen, 14 Birch Meadow Lane.
Hi, Arthur.
I'd like to echo Mr. Blessington's comments about the missing agenda items, because we are exactly 45 minutes into this meeting and you're just about to close it. So the concern about time is not exactly accurate, but more importantly, given the importance of this committee and how, not detrimental, but how important this is to the town, it should be done properly. If you don't want to be on the board or the committee because of a time constraint, don't volunteer. If you're not going to do it right, don't bother to do it. Thank you.
Okay, Ralph.
And my comments are going to be along the same lines. I don't think the chair has the discretion to kick an item off the agenda simply for the convenience of time. If and when that item comes up on the agenda, if there's nothing to discuss, we table it till the next meeting. If time becomes a constraint, then if the committee agrees to table it for that meeting, fine. But otherwise, if we have voted on adding an agenda item, a recurring agenda item specifically, it should stay on the agenda until it is resolved. The chair should not have the discretion to decide not to put an item on the agenda just because of time constraints. We have work to do. The duration of our meetings is whatever it is to accomplish what we're here to do. And if time is so tight for some members, well, as Mr. Christensen said, you shouldn't be here.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Bulick?
Yes, I'm echoing the same comments that Ralph and Art and Mr. Blessington made earlier. It's important. If the board made a decision to put an item on the agenda, then the board has to have the item on the agenda. It's not up to the chair to make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to actually say something, since everybody is.
I have a comment.
I'd like to say something as a public to speak as well. I'll get to you next, Matt. The item that was asked for the agenda, perhaps Ralph can share it. It was basically to discuss options. And the timing of discussing options was not tonight. We need our OPM on board to be able to discuss those options. And my response to Ralph previously was that it is going to be on the agenda. It's just not going to be on this meeting's agenda. The other part I mentioned earlier was about the timing. Everybody here on this SBC committee has time constraints. I'm available till 10 o'clock. Okay, but some people reach out to me and say either they're sick or they have to leave the meeting. So those are things I have to consider when putting items on the agenda for discussion. My goal is to maximize everybody's input on this committee. And if I've got people reaching out to me saying they have to leave the meeting at 7:45 or 7:30 or whatever it may be, I have to manage that. So I hope that addressed some of the comments that were made tonight. It's not out of my convenience. I'll stay on the phone until 10 o'clock if that's what everybody wants. So that is my response. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I don't, then my suggestion would be in the future to avoid this kind of thing, that we, that the board simply make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we adjust the agenda for tonight. There's 2 recurring items that we all voted on that we would like to cover for all moving forward. And then you have a vote and you say, okay, fine, we'll move forward.
You know what, Matt? That's an excellent point. And that can be done tonight. I mean, as you know, when I got down to new business, I had said, I have no business. I have no new business. So if anybody wants to bring something up, please bring it up. We can add it to the agenda. We can vote on it. I gave that opportunity to the committee members. So, I mean, we do still have some time. Like I said, if somebody wants to do that after present to speak, we can do that. But, well, actually, we've already passed new business, so I don't know if we can. We're still on present to speak. So if there's anybody else that wants to add any comments, Erica?
I do. Every member of this board, and certainly Mr. Tulis, who brought this up in the beginning, is fully aware that he could have made a motion to add something specific onto the agenda instead of speaking in generalities and hoping that the rest of us would take that lead. If he believed there was something to be on the agenda, give the rest of the committee the opportunity to vote on it. And I think this has turned into a discussion that's not really appropriate under present to speak, but every member knows that they have the ability during a meeting to ask for something to be voted upon and added to the agenda, and an appropriate discussion would happen.
Thank you, Erica. Anyone else? Peter?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, thank you. I just want to apologize again for all my technical difficulties tonight. And just I was frankly going to agree with you, Catherine, that you have to kind of prioritize the time available in the meeting to the discussion items that were going to be lengthy. I honestly thought that we'd have a lengthy discussion tonight of who we were hiring to be our OPM. I'm disappointed I couldn't participate in it. That's my fault. But if that happens again in the future, where we are trying to prioritize our time, it seems reasonable to me that we can still add the agenda items that were added and just say we don't have time for them in this meeting and we'll take it up at the next meeting. But when they're not there at all, for example, I asked for enrollment to be on the agenda as a standing item because I was really glad that we finally got all that data from the consultant, and it's a major factor in everything we do. And it's like it wasn't there at all, and it falls off the plate. And that was my concern. So I think we could put them there. And then if we have a heavy evening of something else, at least we know to come back to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else? Ralph?
I know you don't want to hear from me, but I'm going to comment anyway. A town government committee, board, commission, whatever, is not quite the same as a construction management meeting. This is somewhat political. And one of the reasons for putting a standing item on the agenda under old business is a reminder to all of the members of the committee that that's an item that at some point in time needs further discussion. Until that item can be put to bed, it should remain on the agenda, just as a reminder. Very often in other commissions, you will see items go from meeting to meeting to meeting under old business because it hasn't yet been resolved. Now, I don't think the chair should have the ability to pick and choose what shows up on the agenda simply because of a concern for time. We all volunteered for this, recognizing that time spent in a meeting will vary from meeting to meeting, depending upon how our agenda is. It is very easy to table an item because we're running out of time or a number of members have to and leave the meeting. But nonetheless, this is a little bit different than a construction management meeting. And I think that this item was agreed to be added on January 19th as a standing item, and it should remain on the agenda, period. That's it.
Thank you, Ralph. So does the chairperson have the ability to go back to new business? And what does the chairperson have authority to do is what I'm curious about.
Catherine, I would say at this point in the meeting,
Catherine,
no.
we can't really, we should address this, but we can't have discussion at this point because of where we are on the agenda.
Okay, that's why I'm asking, because
yeah,
there seems to be some comments about what the chairperson can and can't do. So if we could go back and they want to add their 2 items to the new business, we can certainly do that. But if we're not able to do that in this meeting, then I will just say that those items that both Peter and Ralph have asked to be on the agenda are on the next agenda meeting. Or for the next meeting agenda, sorry. And we'll discuss those then. Any other present to speak before we make a motion to, looks like Brianna and Melissa. Brianna?
Hi, I just wanted to say that at one point in our agendas under new business, there was a space for suggestions for future agenda items. So maybe if we add that in, it would be a good place to sort of keep track of what it was we wanted to go back to or we wanted to make sure was on the next time.
Good suggestion, thank you. Thought I saw Melissa. Melissa, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Melissa McKinnon, 63 Lucerne Road. I just wanted to thank you, Catherine, for handling this difficulty very professionally. People don't seem to realize that everyone is a volunteer and we all learn as we go. And, you know, everybody is learning. I do also want to congratulate Colliers. I am grateful for their help through many years of school projects, and look forward to seeing what they will do. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Anybody else for present to speak? Okay, I will echo Melissa's congratulations to Colliers, and we welcome you as a member of our team, our you know, joining our committee and helping us navigate through this process. There's a multi-layer process here, and some of these tasks are not going to be easy, but we are confident that you guys are going to help us head us in the right direction. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Catherine.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. It is now 7:28. All in favor?
Second.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Abstains? Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.